Welcome to Fraud Expose. I'm Lori Maddock, your host. Today, we're going to be talking to two cybersecurity experts. I'll let them introduce themselves briefly. And we're going to be talking about puppy scams. So, we're going to start this time with Jared. Can you just do a quick intro about yourself?
Sure. Jared Zarmbinski here. I'm a fraud investigator and financial crimes investigator. I've been working in fraud in the financial industry for about 12 and a half years now.
Okay. And when?
Hi, my name is Win Win. I'm a founder of Cyber Armor, where we focus in the dark web.
Very good. Okay. Me coming from dog rescue world, puppy scams. Do you want to start a little bit, Jared, with what you know about puppy scams?
Sure. Well, I had one recently, just in regular investigative casework, and it's really, an interesting thing when you do research on the history of it. I mean, it goes back a long time. I mean, it's kind of more of a style of scam too that can be kind of readapted, and instead of a puppy, you can insert any pet thereof or any commodity or object or
Right.
item. But recently, we discovered, in the course of our regular investigative casework, we were able to start developing a system for linking certain factors of a case together in order to find multiple cases that were actually being perpetrated by the same fraudster or the same group of fraudsters. Because let's face it, the fraud is an organized crime kind of a thing too. It's not just lone wolf actors. A lot of it's highly organized and pervasive throughout the internet in different forms and fashions. So we developed a list of linking factors and basically, whether it's some kind of identifier for the device logging into the online profile or just an account number a check could have been written from, or a phone number, an email address, Zelle tokens, that sort of thing. Whatever it was, we developed a system to kind of trace these all together. So having said that, I had a case one time where it turned out to be sort of the commonality was that it was a marketplace scam, an online marketplace scam. It happened to take place on Facebook, but really any of them, it can happen to any of them technically. But essentially, the same Zelle tokens were being linked as receiving funds for these same individual cases, but it was affecting multiple victims at the institution. One of them was looking for a car part for his old Pontiac, and he saw the guy's profile, had lots of seemingly legitimate photos of a mechanic shop, had a real address. He was able to look this up. It seemed like a real business, a real phone number was for, the business and everything. So the guy started messaging, sent some Zelle transfers for a car part. No car part showed up. The same thing happened for a couple of other individuals, but one of them I noticed was an older lady out of North Texas who was trying to buy a white Shih Tzu puppy named Betty White, who was just the cutest little Shih Tzu puppy you can imagine with that name. And there were photos of this puppy, and it was also a Facebook Marketplace scam uh, in which she got in touch with them about the dog. We needed to get the dog. There was a recent breeding, recent breed. They need to get checked up by the vet. So they had to pay like a $75 vet fee just to try to get him hooked, essentially from the fraudster's perspective. That ended up going well, but there were some shots that the puppy needed, obviously after that, from what the veterinarian, had concluded from his, official diagnosis. And so this lady sent more Zelle transfers for the shots. Then it came time to ship the dog, and from where the dog was purportedly
Mm,
located, and in order to take really good care of the dog, shipping was going to get a little more expensive too, so they needed more money. All in all, I want to say one of the victims, the one from the puppy scam aspect of it, was probably out about $1,000 before she
Wow.
finally said, "You know what? I just want my dog. I'm done with all this." And of course, as you can attest, working with animals and puppies and stuff,
right.
There's no
It's
puppy
emotional.
point, and it is, and the emotional damage alone, setting aside the financial damage, is quite a toll to take on folks, especially our elderly population, and really anybody, in that kind of situation.
Right, and one of the things too is first off, a legitimate breeder won't let a puppy go before it's 8 weeks old. A legitimate breeder will not, they will themselves be paying for the shots and anything before the puppy goes out, and it's built into the price of when they actually purchase the puppy. So I know that for me, I know one thing is that you could use a site like Google Lens or TinEye, take those puppy pictures, insert them in there, and then it'll show you on the web, right, where else that picture may have shown up. There's a lot of these fraudulent people, they're just using other people's puppy pictures and they don't have any puppies at all. And other
Right.
times you have the backyard breeders who sell the sick dogs with things like parvo. So it's probably best if you're going to buy a puppy, really you should rescue one, but if you're going to buy one, it should be local where you can physically go, right? And actually see the puppies and then get vet references and so forth. Um, if somebody has been scammed, in a situation like this, tell me some of the things that you think they could do, or give us some hints if I've missed anything.
Sure. Well, really, what you just said there is great advice. Just going into it to try to stop yourself from falling victim to any kind of scam such as these. Doing that kind of verification, trying to go through a trusted source, doing the image search thing is huge. And it's not just for puppy scams, romance scams. Social media photos of that guy or gal
Right,
that you're talking to. Like, turns out it's really somebody else, and I've heard all kinds of stories of victims ended up finding out because they found the real person was out there apologizing on behalf of so many victims contacting him because of what was going on, and so the same thing can happen with that too. And so verification is really key. With online scams, a lot of it's the same thing with any kind of crime. I mean, trying to file a local police report, when and if they'll take something of that nature for an online crime such as these. Sometimes you can file locally, but you can also file an IC3 report with the FBI, and they have the IC3.gov website where you can report any kind of internet fraud or any kind of various
right.
types of internet fraud, including these types of scams as well. Otherwise, just try to learn, to recognize those red flags and just learn from the experience to try to stop it from happening again. The verification aspect that you mentioned, also just whether or not you know them, like you mentioned, that's something that we ask as the bank, from the bank's perspective, as a investigator at a bank. We always ask, okay, well, have you ever met this person, in person? Do you know this person? How did you meet them? Have you seen the dog, or have you seen the car that you're trying to buy, or whatever it is, and so,
Right.
but really, that's all really good stuff. And usually, a combination of those things and those verification methods can help keep you out of a lot of trouble with these.
Yeah, one of the other things I think of too is use a credit card. If they don't accept a credit card, skip it. Because I know like with any of these cash apps and Zelle and debit cards, once you've done that, that's basically the equivalent of money, correct? So they've got your money. But if you use a credit card, you at least have some power to fight it. And I would think that you'd also have to have a contract. But again, that doesn't really mean anything. If they're a scammer, they can write up anything they want, correct?
Sure. So there are federal regulations, the Consumer, Protection, Bureau, and the associated acts thereof, and a lot of the credit and electronic transfer of funds, protections that exist for federal regulations. With credit cards specifically, do afford you some, additional leeway, some additional time, if anything. There's longer time for claims processing, and any of the interest or financial institution fees related to that charge that you were holding during the time as this all played out won't be applied to you. That also can applies to any hit on your credit report as well. So if all of that goes according to plan as far as the dispute process goes, yeah, you wouldn't be held liable as the consumer for that. And that credit card does give you an added boost of protection, not just from that
Right.
claim aspect, but also from the fact that it's credit as opposed to funds in your actual account. So it's always good to have it, as
Yeah, I think what it really comes down to is, we talk about gut instinct. If you don't know the person that you are doing business with, you know what my answer is? Don't do business with them because you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of people out there doing business with the general public and having done some of those types of transactions in the past, I can say I've sold a few things on Craigslist in the past. I've sold back when I used to jam with music, I sold some pieces of equipment, but I always met them in a parking lot at a Walmart.
Yeah,
I always
exactly.
met them in a public place where I knew there'd be cameras and other people, where it was really just like a really low probability that any funny business would happen.
Well, you laugh, but I used to meet them at the parking lot at the police station locally. Because
Right.
if you're not gonna meet me
The
and the
dog
police do
park
actually
with all
say
the
that,
other
right?
pets and the owners. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you very much for explaining everything today, and we'll be back again soon on Fraud Expose.
Thank you.